Dawson, and I want to speak today about something that's coming up that's very, very powerful in the collective consciousness right now. So today is the 1st of December 2019, and rather than look at a forecast this month energetically, I really want to look at what's happening right now, because it's so intense and so important, I believe, for us to understand what is happening so that we can at least find a sense of stability within it. So for many people, and this is being reinforced in a lot of the personal sessions that the Masters have been giving in the last week, there is an experience of intensified guilt and shame. And this is happening at the moment through the avenue of exposure. Now, right at the beginning of the year, January 2019, with our themes for 2019, the Masters called this year the year of exposure. And at that time, we really didn't know what that meant. Perhaps that was going to be about systems in the world being exposed. Well, I think we've seen a little bit of that. But where we're coming to now as we move to the end of 2019 is this is a real exposure of ourselves. And it's not necessarily an exposure about things that have happened in the past or the aspects of ourselves that we don't necessarily like, to get rid of them. This is about bringing it all to the light. And for many people right now, that's happening in the form of public arenas. In other words, public humiliation, discreditation, smear campaigns, anything that you've felt guilty or shameful about in the past, or perhaps you're being invited to feel guilty or shameful about something in light of somebody else's view of you. This is a very strong theme right now. So I felt compelled to make a video about this today because it is coming up for so many people. And I just want to give you a little glimpse around what this is really about and how you can find your sense of stability within it. Now, the Masters have often referred to guilt and shame as the two bouncers or security guards that sit at the doorway to freedom. And what happens is that as you become more conscious, guilt and shame are right there, because the closer you get to that doorway of totality or that doorway of freedom, guilt and shame are the two main key beliefs within our inherent DNA blueprints, introduced blueprints, I would go as far to say, that actually seem to loom larger the more conscious that you get. Now, many people would think, well, if I'm really developing and I'm growing and I'm becoming more conscious, then shouldn't I be leaving guilt and shame behind? And yet for many of us, it's really coming up very, very fiercely right now, because as you walk towards that doorway to freedom, they're standing right there. So this is your great opportunity to see them as a very, very clever and ingenious way to get you to take a few steps back, away from that doorway into your totality, away from that doorway into freedom, so that you'll go back and look at your past and try and reconcile things, try and heal things. But I really want to encourage you at this time to keep walking forward, because it's so tempting to keep going back to who you used to be, moving into your greatness and then receding again. This is your opportunity to look guilt and shame right in the eye and say, you're doing a fantastic job there. Excuse me, I'm walking straight through you. But when this happens, it's like the dark night of the soul. It's a crisis for your own identity. Perhaps you didn't like who you used to be before. Perhaps you're made to feel like you should be ashamed for who you are now. This is your opportunity to look guilt and shame right in the eye and see it for what it really is. And it is a mechanism to keep you in the past, a mechanism to stop you from walking into your greatness and into this new paradigm of freedom, where you're not beholden to the actions that have occurred previously, but you have an open range to actually begin to create anew. And this is what we want for the whole planet and for all of humanity at this time. Now, this is also being experienced through a complete intensification of emotion at this time. And so many people, including myself, most of us, I think, are feeling in a range of intense emotions on a daily basis. So how I'd like to kind of get you to visualize this, or attempt to visualize this, is if you see light streaming from a very, very wide range and it moves towards a keyhole, it starts to move in towards a point. And as this happens, all the different aspects of your multidimensional self and all the different aspects of your personality, all the different experiences you've had, all the different range of emotions that you've had, they all have to come in to a very, very finite point in order to pass through that keyhole. Now, this is also what we call the eye of the needle. And so for many of us, we're right at this point now where everything's becoming so intensified. And so what's coming up for us emotionally and mentally is all sorts of different things. And it seems to be happening in a very, very compressed state. So we are in an experience of compression right now. So this could mean that you range anywhere from feeling angry or guilty or joyous or jealous or any of these things, happy, sad, grief, all in the space of a day. And it's very easy for you to get distracted by this and say, well, let's get rid of that. This is terrible. I'm feeling unstable. All of this emotion is happening for me. All of these thoughts are happening for me. But try to remember that this is exactly what needs to happen, because you cannot pass through that keyhole or that doorway with guilt and shame there, or that eye of the needle into a new paradigm unless you're willing to bring all of you with it. Now, this is very different to what a lot of us have learned through metaphysical and spiritual practices over the ages, especially for myself in religions and in different philosophical thought processes. It's about what we get rid of. It's about what we refine in order to pass through. And yet, we're beginning to understand in terms of unity consciousness and totality that it's actually about bringing all of you with you, all of your experience, all of your range of emotions, all of these different aspects of your totality. So I'm inviting you on this day to be a little less hard on yourself, to resist the temptation to go back into the past, to resist the temptation to retreat as you start to compress and actually move through that keyhole, through that eye of the needle into something new. Now, a lot of these aspects, let me say this as well, because this has come up recently in the last few days. I feel it's very important, and it's the very first time that I heard it from the masters, is that this gathering that's happening for you now, it is not an overload. It is actually a gathering, and it's bringing all of that feistiness in you and all of the experiences that you've had before, all of those qualities, because even in those experiences that you haven't liked from the past, there's a quality in there of your personality or of your experience that's going to be valuable moving forward. So while it may feel that this is a time where perhaps you feel you either need to be in rebellion or in retreat, let us say that neither of those things is where you can be at this time. This is about just allowing all of it to come back together, because when it actually does pass through, when you pass through that point of acceptance of everything that you are and bring it all with you, it becomes a new kind of energy, an alchemical form of empowerment, of creativity, that apparently you and I and the collective consciousness is going to be called into action with between April, May, June 2020, where I have been advised, or someone else has been advised through me, that this is the time for collective action. So even though this intensity can often push you towards feeling as if I need to do something, I must take action, but I don't know what to do, rest assured that this is actually not the time for that. This is the time to be very much inclusive with everything that's happening around you, so that you can embrace your totality. And then when you feel that inner calling, when you feel that call to action for something that you feel very strongly about, that will be the time. And as we have heard just in the last few days, April, May, June 2020, there's something big that's happening in the collective consciousness, and this is the time where you'll feel so confident within yourself that you can actually begin to take action with everything that you are. So I hope this has been helpful for you today and this week coming, and for December 2019. It really is an incredibly intense time, so go easy on yourself, embrace yourself. It's not wise for you to try to exclude any aspect of yourself at this time. You need to bring all of yourself into this new reality and into this new earth, because That's the totality of who you are. We want the whole rainbow, not just certain shades or colours. So I wish you all a beautiful month, and let's see what 2020 will bring.